Talking about implementing to make it clear to our viewers.
Okay. I love what I'm hearing from my sisters here, and
please articulate it with examples.
Okay. I'll start off first with talking about policies. Let me first come to that particular word, policy. Now, no matter what you do, it has to be under a particular law. I'm trying to break it down so that laymen can understand. I don't want to use legal words, In other words, a lot of people come to lawyers, and I tell people that lawyers are not magicians. We only interpret the law. We do not make the laws. It is the National Assembly that makes the laws. Now, how do those laws get made? These people would have to, I'd say they have to get stakeholders. Mm-hmm. Let me give you an example. Nigeria is very quick in ratifying treaties. A lot of international laws. The most recent example I can, recall now is the International Labour Organization Act on Harassment and Sexual Violence in the Workplace. It is called the Convention 190. Our president, Buhari, ratified it, and it was made public sometime in September, I think September 29th or thereabout. Unfortunately, ratifying a law does not domesticate it. It still has to be domesticated before it can be implemented. Nigeria has ratified so many treaties. We are always number. In fact, for this International Labour Organization Act, Nigeria is the 4th African country to ratify, and I think is it the 5th or so internationally. We don't waste time. Our presidents always append their signature. Oh yes, Nigeria will obey. Oh yes. But you see, it has to be domesticated. Who domesticates the law? The National Assembly. Trickles down to the states. If it's not domesticated, it cannot be implemented.
So what's the problem with the assembly?
Good.
Oh, we have them. They are elected.
The challenge we have, and I make bold to say this, is that most elected members of the National Assembly do not carry their constituency along. That is the truth. Once they step in there, they see themselves as up there and the people down there. And so they have they lord it over their constituency rather than work in partnership with their constituencies. So they really do not know what's going on at the grassroots. They have foot soldiers, people working with them, who tell them what they want to hear. Most times, they do not know what is going on at the grassroots, and they are unwilling to know. That is a major challenge. So that is why we have a National Assembly who will sit in the House and is more concerned about their personal pay, their wardrobe allowance, and other things rather than the people that they are meant to be serving. A public servant that's why you have the word public servant. You're supposed to be a servant to the people. But in Nigeria here, the people serve them. It is.
I don't agree with that. I think
that they don't know going there.
They don't know the law.
Yes.
How can you domesticate something you don't know? When you don't know, you have people in assemblies that don't know what they're doing there.
Okay, so indirectly you have agreed with what I just said. They don't know the law.
Now we have Tumbra.
Luckily, by the grace of God, I'm going to be one of the senators.
Amen.
In the red chamber.
Amen.
And I can speak to that, which is to say that these laws, the bills, there's a difference between just getting elected through a party for the sake of being elected. Like people will say, people don't take it serious. Oh, YPP, that's a party. That party cannot have any headway. It's about PDP, APC and all that.
And Labour.
So, but I can speak to you that when you have a mission and a vision, there's a difference. Because the reason why we have this length of months for campaigns and rally is to enable you know things that the people who are sending you there, your masters are saying, we are like servants, she has already said it. Mm-hmm. What are the things that your constituency, what bothers them the most? Now, for a woman, me being a woman, I know gender-based violence is a very big issue. But most importantly, it's empowerment. If a woman is empowered, gender-based issues are reduced because she can speak for herself and fend for herself. That is one. What am I going to do at the national level? These laws, they're actually there. These bills are actually there. The difference is that, like, you make a bill and you are not implementing it, and you're not even, there is no resources to even, because like what she is doing as an NGO, under normal circumstances, when these laws are ratified, when they are made, these bills come into real law, it's not the senator that is going now to go and start going from place to place. We have NGOs, agencies that are supposed to go in and execute this project funded. Because all these in advanced world, all these bills, they are offices that are meant to pursue, check, and implement those things. You have the legal departments, lawyers that work within the state government, who, in fact, the feeder, I think they call them feeder. They do a lot of public services that are not even being spoken about widely, helping women in this kind of cases. So, as a senator, one of my agenda is to see how we can convince our men to see us not just as females, as their brothers, sisters, mothers. So if you are able to relate with your fellow men in that light, signing this bill is absolutely going to be nothing. But Nigerians don't like confrontations. And so when there's confrontation, they withdraw. Because that bill was like, okay, now women want to come and be in charge, and so they are against it. But most importantly, like I've repeated, we as women, mothers, we should take time, even fathers. I speak to fathers. Don't show that distinction obviously to your children, so that they can grow with that confidence. And it is with that confidence that my own father, not even my mom, because my mom died when I was young. I was 8 when my mom died, so I really don't know much about her. But my father ensured that we, his daughters, there was no difference between the daughters and the sons. And so with that mindset, personally, it is difficult for me to be intimidated by a male.
You have told us what you will do.
Yes.
What have you been doing?
That's
because that should be the one that we should look your area of
yes. What have I been doing? What have I been doing? Is what I've said.
Of what you are going to deliver.
Yes. What have I been doing? Like my husband was in the Nigerian Navy, and so we have association, Naval Officers' Wife Association. I was active right from when I was a very young officer. One of the things we do there is just these things we have discussed. As a naval wife, your husbands are hardly even in town. So you are the mother, the father, and everything. And so we build, if you come into the Naval Officers Association, you realize that we build a lot of empowerment things. We have schools. While we're still in service, we have schools, we have programs that we run for women just to empower them. That is one thing the Naval Officers Association was, at least they put inside in me, right from the age of, I married when I was 22. I became independent, yes. I became independent right from there because we were taught how to manage homes. And so I've lived within the barracks for all these years, going to attend those kind of programs, both internationally, locally, trying to bring the women cause into limelight as an officer's wife. And so that's what has even given me the confidence to go into my own locality doing the same thing. In this period, this 6-7 month period I've been on ground, the same thing we do with women. We talk to them about their well-being, talk to them how they can be empowered, how they can take care of their community. A lot of things are going on. And so, look, I can assure you that this time around in Bayelsa, for example, in my constituency, we have more women genuinely voting and not being co-opted to vote, because they are now beginning to see themselves, through what I'm doing. They are not seeing a man. They are seeing a woman who is strong, who is willing to go to the trench with them, willing to understand what they are saying and move with them. So we are doing a lot. In fact, most of my campaigns now are kind of being spearheaded by the women. And so what my suggestion will be is that women should get involved in local politics.
We come back to that suggestion.
Yes.
Let me come to Princess Elizabeth. Talking about implementation. How are you planning to empowerment? How are you going to empower women?
Okay. I think for me,
the NGO.
The NGOs.
Not the
yes,
women. The
definitely. Women.
They are not being empowered.
Yeah, the NGO and government department, the civil, the processes that we have, the policies, the systems must work for women.
Together.
They must complement each other, and they must be integrated in order to get result. They must work. For me, I have seen it all. Because of where I'm coming from, and having worked in civil service as well. You can't achieve anything without affirmative action. You have to bring that affirmative action to give women their rights. Even in the USA, it was affirmative action that gave the black people level to start growing for equal opportunity to be implemented in workplaces, in government departments, in police. You have to bring that affirmative action into place. We have moved forward away from women telling the child you're equal. Even the girl child knows he is equal. In the home, some girl childs are stronger than the male child. Than the male one. My father too never brought us up to say one is. In fact, he always pushed the girl forward.
That's right.
But what I'm saying is that the society and the culture that we find ourselves, especially in the north, it is worse for women in the north than it is in the south. And as you're going down to the southeast, it gets easier and easier and easier. When you come from the extreme north, you see women, 12-year-old. They've been married off, 15 or 13-year-old being married off. They want to go to school. You see segregation of schools, the girls' school, the boys' school. Yes, there are boys' secondary school, but in some religious culture, religious states and environment, the women, the girl child is segregated completely from the male child. You have all sorts of things you need to put into consideration when you drive that policies. So that policy that you're bringing into place must be able to work for that state, for that culture, to bring the girl child out. So what we are going to do in Lagos State is that we are going to have, I know there's a women department, but this women department sometimes, I'm sorry, they cannot measure what they achieve, but they do achieve. But we must have policies that target.
You talked about NGOs.
Yeah.
You said the funding of the NGO. What are you going to do different?
We are
to
going
empower NGO, because they are the ones. Like Rice said, that they are working.
We are going to have specific funds for specific programs that are targeted to the NGOs in order to educate the women and the girl child. These funds are going to be result driven. They're not just going to be like distribution to NGOs, but we want to achieve, say we want to take every girl in a home must be educated. We don't want to see single parents, for example. You know, there's a lot of single parents in Lagos State.
Not only in Lagos State.
in Nigeria.
Worldwide.
Worldwide.
No, there's even more I know it's worldwide, but if you take Nigerian population in total, Nigerian states, if you do the statistics, I want to believe Lagos has more single parents than most states. And these single parents are not being supported. They find themselves as a single parent for a lot of reasons, like domestic abuse, like the widowhood. There's a lot of things that takes you into single parenthood. And there is no support mechanism for them. The single mom is the first one that will throw the child onto the street that we need to eat. No school.
So what are
No
you
then.
doing? What are you going
So
to
we're going
do
to have
different?
a department that supports widowhood, single parent, the NGO, and that fund to support that in order to ensure that the women and the girl child are empowered to want to come, to want to go to school, to want to go and get their rights, to want to order. You find that even basic housing, some widows can't afford it because their husband died, and they find themselves on the poverty line. They find themselves on the abuse line. Also, so if they cannot go to their government, they cannot go to their NGO saying, "I'm suffering, please." And where will they go? They have nowhere to go. It's that sort of things we're going to be targeting funding to, so that people can have access to the support mechanism within government. They know that government is there to support them.
Let me go back to Tombra.
Yes, please.
We're talking about 35% family
Exactly.
action. How many women are coming out for this? When you say, okay, government should give, should make sure that they implement 35% family action.
Yes.
How many women?
That's what I'm saying. That you know, we women, we have what it takes. You know, but when somebody drums into your head daily that you need to be affirmed, then you cannot even take the first step. That's why I say all this, we can talk year in, year out, we talk about child abuse, affirmation, all those stories go UN, we spend millions, everybody travel to the United States and go for functions and throw monies and all that, with no results. Personally, I know I talk a lot, but I like actions. As a senator, I should be having an office that deals strictly with my constituency women. Now, no matter how few we are in the house, if the women come together and focus on this is our project as women, we want our voices to be heard. It can be done. That is where the woman influence comes. You are able to convince, like my husband, we were both young when we got married, and he allowed me to be who I am today. I wasn't even academic, but my dad insisted that I must get a degree. Who taught me? My husband. My husband was my teacher, to my annoyance. Because as far as I was concerned, I was married, let me manage my life. And he said, no, your dad said you must go to the university. So that's the point I'm making. We should be able to come out as women and not go there at the assembly and now begin to forget that you are actually a lawmaker yourself. You are not going there thinking that somebody should take care of you when you are representing a group of women. And so me, Tomra, I'm indeed going there to represent the women, the youths, and my constituency, most importantly. And so I've mapped out in my brain what I'm supposed to be doing there. My mission there is to pursue anything that will be productive to my constituency specifically, or limiting it not just to my women, even to the men. It is simple to do.
If I can come in on that 35% affirmative action, I think what that means is that in every position, in every election, women must have 35%. That means for 109 or 7 Senate, 35% of them must be
109.
women.
Yes.
Must be women.
Yes.
And that means when you bring in affirmative action, the women, when you do your primaries, you know 35% is already going for women. That is the responsibility
At the party level.
At the party level. That's their responsibility.
At the party
They
level.
cannot put. You can't tell me there is no women. We are more than men. So you cannot tell me there is no women to take 35% in everything. Madam, they cannot tell me there is no women. But jokes apart, at the party level, at the office level, at the private level, at the civil servant level, every position must have 35% women. Let me tell you what they do overseas. They have something called guaranteed interview. That means if you meet the bare minimum, in this affirmative action, if you meet the bare minimum, a man can have PhD. But if you meet that bare minimum, if it's WAEC, and it says that position is for women,
And they give it to you.
and we find a woman without WAEC, your man can have paper, it goes to that woman. That is what affirmative action is. That is what guaranteed position, and that goes for women and people with disability. We have to create that environment that involves everybody. So affirmative action in Senate, I don't want to see 2023 Senate, and they have another 7 out of 107.
It will be very few.
It will be, it's not right.
It will be very few.
We don't want to see assembly. There's 40 assembly in Lagos State, am I right? 35% of it is supposed to be women.
Don't you think the result is already on ground? Because if at the primary level you don't have enough women, so you are sure that you are not going to have.
No, it is party. You see, this issue are from this so-called major party. Like my party, the Young Progressive Party, for example, I didn't have to pay anything. In fact, I didn't even go through the stress of trying to. Yes, because I was. Yes, they told me that as long as you're a woman contesting, it's okay by us. And so but the issue now is the 35% affirmative that we're looking for. It's not just bring a woman in. To contest an election is capital intensive.
That's why we're going to
And
form the
I have
NGA
been
to support the women.
on ground, and I can assure you that till date, I'm yet to see one NGO calling me and saying that
Yes,
you are a candidate and we'll sponsor you. Right? So exactly. So that's what I say. Now, what are my strategies? Simple. Because I know that some of these NGOs and all these grandiose talk are just words that are not put in actions. And so I'm not going to be waiting for anybody at all. So I'm right there in the trench. The grass.
Let me come back to
Yes, must allow me respond to
that.
I will try and represent my constituency effectively. And I can assure you they'll be very disappointed if I don't respond to it. I heard words like we're speaking grandiose words. In other words, we just said stuff and I'm going to respond to that. I still love you, my sister, but I love you more to that.
Please do.
Okay. I will just pick one or two things as I remember them.
Yes.
I will start with the last one. NGOs, like what, Governor, our VP said. I'm going to start calling her our DG,
Deputy
Governor, our DG, our deputy, and because she's a woman, irrespective of party, So, I want to say this because when I listen to both of you, I see that we all are passionate about the same thing.
Yes,
we're just using different routes to get there. For NGOs, truly speaking, funding is a major problem. But beyond funding, if you're talking about grassroots, we are the people to talk to. Believe me, if truly you want to get to the grassroots, we are the ones closest to the people. And do not take that lightly, because when we speak to them, they listen. That's the truth. People want to see that you have concern for them. It still brings me back to political will. Everything you have said falls under political will. You were talking about a constituency office. That is already been provided for in the constitution for the lawmakers. The question is, how many of them are actually doing it? It has to do with individuals. And then if they are not, who calls them to order?
It should be the electorates.
The who are the voice of the electorate are the NGOs. That's just the truth. We are the ones who can come up and say, no, you are not doing the right thing. You must follow the law. Do it this way. Go this way. And what happens at the end of the day? Of course, we all know that politics presently in Nigeria is money politics. If you do not have the cash, you cannot go forward, no matter how laudable your ideas are. Laudable ideas do not work in Nigeria. Only laudable ideas do not work. You need cash, capital. And so it brings me down to education. One of my sisters here said we should put it down in layman language. We've been doing that. If people understand the law, they know their rights. Yes. And that is what we are doing. We have been educating people at the grassroots. You do not need to sell your votes. We have gone beyond empowerment with cake making and donut making. We don't do that anymore. Women have gone beyond that. Yes. Now we want to fly private jets. Now we want to head IT companies. That's
what
not at the what we are now having. That's not true, because you see, you have very brilliant and intelligent people at the grassroots. That's why I use the word political will. If something is the law, and I do not have influence over I may have influence to a certain extent, but I do not have the power to enforce like the police.
You don't have all the time.
You understand? So having said that, at Warren Rose Foundation, the organization that I run, we are the grassroots. We have been running a support group for domestic violence since 2014. Every month we bring in lawyers, we bring in imams, pastors, because we also think about the religious part. We talk to community leaders.
What's the best way to get justice for women?
The best way to get justice for women. Let us start with the laws that are already in place. And let us call. Yes. Let us call out those who are meant to implement. Because that is really where the cocoa is now. Who are the people that are meant to carry out the police? What is the job of the police? A lot of policemen, and I will say this publicly, a lot of policemen sometimes, I'm sorry to say, do not even understand that they have a right to go and arrest a person who is perpetrating violence against his wife. They will tell you, oh, no, it's a domestic violence matter. Don't get us involved. The women go to the police station and they do not have this justice. And yes, there's still a lot of corrupt police officers out there. Some who even ask for sexual favors before they take action. And I use the word some because I would apologize to my ladies that when I talked about politicians, being just thinking about their personal, what they want to benefit. It is not all politicians, but what is the percentage? The good people in quotes do not even scratch the surface. And don't forget, politics is a game of numbers. Even in the House of Assembly, no matter how laudable your ideas are, you still need to get the number. And that is where the lobbying comes in. Exactly. Lobbying is not cheap. Everything is the truth.
No, if we get the
and I'm not even referring to giving money to somebody. Do you know that if I want to go to Abuja today, I'm not going to trek to Abuja. I will take a flight. Exactly. I will pay hotel bill. It's money. About funding NGOs, please, we're solidly behind you.